Fallout is a role-playing game series set in an alternate future where the world developed along a different technological path than our own, keeping a strong mid-20th century style even as advanced robotics, nuclear power, and energy weapons became common. The series is best known for mixing retro-futuristic design with post-apocalyptic storytelling, and it often explores how people rebuild society after nuclear war, using dark humor alongside serious themes like survival, propaganda, and the consequences of unchecked power. The first Fallout game was released in 1997 by Interplay Productions and developed by Black Isle Studios. It introduced the core setting of the franchise, a world devastated by the Great War, a global nuclear exchange that took place in the year 2077. Fallout's timeline establishes that the war lasted only a brief period of time, and the destruction happened so quickly that many people died without understanding what was happening, while others rushed into underground vaults built to protect select populations. Fallout's vaults were constructed by the Vault-Tec Corporation, and in the series, Vault-Tec is presented as one of the most influential companies in pre-war America. Many vaults were advertised as shelters designed to preserve humanity, but later games reveal that numerous vaults were actually designed as social experiments. These experiments varied widely, ranging from unusual population rules to psychological manipulation, environmental control, and long-term isolation. Vaults became one of the most recognizable symbols of the franchise, and the vault door design, vault numbering, and the Vault Boy mascot are among Fallout's most iconic visual elements. The original Fallout game begins with the player character living in Vault 13. The central problem is that the vault's water chip fails, and the player is sent out into the wasteland to find a replacement before the vault's water supply runs out. This simple survival mission expands into a larger conflict involving super mutants and a powerful antagonist known as the Master. The Master leads a group called the Unity and seeks to transform humanity through forced mutation, believing it will create a stronger species that can survive the harsh new world. Fallout 2 was released in 1998 and takes place decades after the first game. The protagonist of Fallout 2 is known as the Chosen One, a tribal descendant of the original Fallout hero. The Chosen One is sent to find the GECK, or Garden of Eden Creation Kit, which is a device meant to help restore and rebuild environments. Fallout 2 introduces the Enclave as a major antagonist faction. The Enclave is portrayed as a remnant of the pre-war United States government and military leadership, and they believe they are the rightful heirs to America. In Fallout 2, the Enclave's plans involve wiping out the Wasteland's population, seeing them as contaminated by radiation and mutation. The Brotherhood of Steel is one of Fallout's most recognizable factions, and it appears across multiple games in different forms. The Brotherhood began as a military organization that survived the Great War and later became focused on preserving advanced technology. Different chapters of the Brotherhood operate with different priorities depending on leadership and regional conditions, which is why the Brotherhood can appear more isolationist in some games and more interventionist in others. Their use of power armor and energy weapons contributes heavily to their identity, and Brotherhood imagery has become strongly tied to the Fallout franchise as a whole. Power armor is a major part of Fallout's visual identity, and it is presented as advanced military equipment that enhances strength and protection. In earlier games, power armor functions more like a high-tier piece of equipment, while Fallout 4 reworked power armor into a wearable exoskeleton system that requires fusion cores to operate. This change made power armor feel more like a vehicle-like suit rather than standard armor, and it also made fusion cores a key resource for players who rely on it. The Pip-Boy is another central Fallout device, functioning as a wearable computer that allows the player to manage inventory, view maps, track quests, and monitor health. The Pip-Boy's interface is one of the most recognizable parts of the Fallout experience, with its green monochrome display and retro design. Different games feature different Pip-Boy models, such as the Pip-Boy 3000 and Pip-Boy 3000 Mark IV, and it is often described as standard vault equipment issued to residents. Fallout 3 was released in 2008 and marked the series' transition into a fully 3D open-world format developed by Bethesda Game Studios. Fallout 3 is set in the Capital Wasteland, primarily around the ruins of Washington, D.C. The player character begins in Vault 101 and leaves the vault in search of their father. Fallout 3 introduces players to major locations like Megaton, Rivet City, and the remains of the National Mall, and it features the conflict between the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave over control of Project Purity, a large water purification initiative. Fallout New Vegas was released in 2010 and developed by Obsidian Entertainment. It is set in the Mojave Wasteland and centers on a conflict between the New California Republic and Caesar's Legion, with additional influence from Mr. House and other factions. The protagonist, known as the Courier, survives being shot in the head and becomes involved in the political struggle over Hoover Dam and New Vegas itself. New Vegas is widely known for its faction system, branching story outcomes, and extensive role-playing options. Fallout 4 was released in 2015 and is set in the Commonwealth, which includes the ruins of Boston and surrounding areas. The protagonist, known as the Soul Survivor, is a pre-war individual who emerges from Vault 111 after being cryogenically frozen. Fallout 4's story centers on the Soul Survivor's search for their child, Sean, and involves major factions including the Minutemen, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Railroad, and the Institute. Fallout 4 also introduced a settlement building system that allows players to construct and manage communities across the map. The Institute is one of Fallout 4's most important factions and is known for creating synths, which are advanced humanoid machines designed to resemble humans. Synths are a major source of fear and paranoia in the Commonwealth because they can infiltrate communities, and the question of whether synths should be treated as people is one of Fallout 4's central moral themes. The Railroad is dedicated to helping synths escape the Institute, while the Brotherhood of Steel views synths as a threat that must be eliminated. Fallout 76 was released in 2018 and is set in Appalachia, primarily within the region of West Virginia. The player characters are residents of Vault 76, and the game's story involves rebuilding efforts after Reclamation Day. Fallout 76 includes threats such as the Scorch Plague and Scorch Beasts, and it emphasizes crafting, base building through the CAMP system, and multiplayer exploration. Over time, Fallout 76 received major updates that added human NPCs, new quest lines, and expanded the game's story. Across the Fallout franchise, Nuka-Cola is one of the most iconic fictional brands, appearing as a recurring item and symbol of pre-war consumer culture. Different variants of Nuka-Cola appear in various games, and it often functions as both a healing item and a collectible. Another recurring pre-war brand is Robco, the robotics company associated with Mr. House, which produced many robots seen throughout the series, including Mr. Handy units and other automated systems. Fallout's radio stations are another defining feature, especially in the 3D entries. Radio provides music, atmosphere, and sometimes news broadcasts that react to the player's actions. Fallout 3 features Galaxy News Radio with Three Dog as a major voice in the Wasteland, while Fallout 4 features Diamond City Radio with Travis Miles as its main host. The music selections often include mid 20th century songs, reinforcing Fallout's retro aesthetic and creating a contrast between cheerful tunes and devastated landscapes. The Fallout franchise has expanded beyond video games into other media. A live action Fallout television series was released on Amazon Prime Video in 2024, introducing the setting to a broader audience. The show is set within the Fallout universe and includes recognizable themes, technology, and faction influences, while telling its own story. Fallout's continued popularity has led to ongoing interest in its lore, its world design, and its blend of satire and survival storytelling. Fallout's long-running appeal comes from the way it mixes exploration with world building. Players often discover the story through environmental details, terminals, holotapes, and small scenes left behind in ruined locations. Many Fallout locations include carefully placed skeletons, objects, and notes that imply what happened in the final moments before the bombs fell or in the years after. This style of storytelling helps the wasteland feel lived in, even when it is empty and silent. Even though each Fallout game focuses on a different region and protagonist, the franchise maintains consistent themes. The danger of unchecked technology, the persistence of human conflict, and the small moments of hope that survive in the ruins. The wasteland is harsh, but it is also full of people trying to build new lives, whether through cooperation, conquest, or survival alone. Fallout's timeline continues to grow with each new story, and the series remains one of the most recognizable post-apocalyptic settings in gaming history. Fallout's setting is often described as retrofuturism, because the world imagines a future that kept many cultural styles of the 1940s and 1950s while developing advanced nuclear technology, robotics, and energy weapons. This style is visible everywhere in the series, from the design of household appliances and advertisements to the architecture of cities and the look of vehicles. Even in the wasteland, where most of the world has collapsed, the remains of pre-war America still carry that distinct mid-century look, making Fallout instantly recognizable compared to other post-apocalyptic franchises. The Great War in Fallout's timeline happened on the 23rd of October 2077, and it is portrayed as a sudden nuclear exchange that devastated the world in a very short time. Many people were killed immediately, while others survived only because they reached underground vaults or were far enough away from major targets. Fallout's world implies that the war was the end result of global resource conflicts, especially related to energy shortages, and the pre-war period is often shown as a time of heavy propaganda, militarization, and public anxiety. Vault-Tech's vaults are one of the most important pieces of Fallout lore, and across the games, vaults are revealed to have extremely different purposes. Some vaults were designed to operate normally, while many others were designed with experimental conditions that could last for decades. These experiments could involve altered social structures, environmental manipulation, psychological stress tests, and forced population rules. The Vault system becomes one of the franchise's most consistent storytelling tools because it allows each vault to function like its own self-contained mystery, with unique survivors, tragedies, and consequences. The Vault suit is one of Fallout's most iconic visual elements. Vault suits are typically blue with yellow details and a large vault number printed on the back. The Vault suit's bright color scheme stands out sharply against the muted tones of the wasteland, making Vault dwellers visually distinct from most surface survivors. Vault suits also serve as an immediate marker of identity, since many wasteland communities view Vault dwellers as rare outsiders who come from a world of technology and isolation. The Pip-Boy is a wearable device used by vault dwellers, and it is a key part of Fallout's interface and world building. The Pip-Boy allows players to manage inventory, view a map, track quests, and monitor health status. In the lore, it functions as a portable computer and data organizer. The Pip-Boy's green monochrome screen, knobs, and retro styling match Fallout's overall aesthetic, and it often becomes a visual symbol of the player character's connection to Vault-Tec technology. Fallout uses a system called VATS, which stands for Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System. In the 3D Fallout games, VATS allows players to slow down combat and target specific body parts. This system is inspired by the turn-based combat of the original Fallout games, translating that tactical pacing into a real-time 3D format. VATS has become one of Fallout's signature gameplay features, and it also reinforces the idea that the player character has access to Vault-Tec technology that gives them an advantage in combat. The Fallout franchise is known for its use of environmental storytelling, where locations tell stories through the objects left behind. Players often find skeletons arranged in ways that imply how people died, notes written in desperation, terminals full of old emails, and personal belongings placed in meaningful ways. This approach helps the world feel detailed and lived in, even though much of it is empty and ruined. It also means that many small stories in Fallout are optional, discovered only by exploring off the main path. Fallout's currency varies depending on the region and game. In Fallout and Fallout 2, bottle caps become a common currency because they are durable, hard to counterfeit, and tied to trade networks. In Fallout New Vegas, different currencies exist, including NCR dollars and Legion coins, reflecting the presence of organized factions with more structured economies. The use of caps as currency is one of Fallout's most famous details, and it emphasizes how the wasteland repurposes old-world objects into new systems of value. The Brotherhood of Steel is one of Fallout's most consistent factions, and it appears in multiple games with different leadership styles. The Brotherhood's core idea is that advanced technology should be controlled and preserved because the misuse of technology helped destroy the world. In some regions, the Brotherhood becomes isolationist and secretive, focusing on collecting technology. In other regions, like the Capital Wasteland in Fallout 3, the Brotherhood becomes more openly protective of civilians. Their power armor, energy weapons, and strict hierarchy are central to their identity. Super mutants are one of Fallout's most recognizable enemy types, and their origins differ depending on region. In the original Fallout, super mutants are created through the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or FEV, and they are tied to the Master's Unity. In Fallout 3, super mutants are linked to Vault 87, where FEV experiments created a new generation of mutants in the Capital Wasteland. Super mutants are typically much larger and stronger than humans, and many are hostile, though some individuals in the series are portrayed as intelligent or capable of cooperation. Ghouls are another major part of Fallout's world, and they are humans who have been heavily affected by radiation. Many ghouls retain their intelligence and personality, while others become feral ghouls, losing their minds and becoming aggressive. Ghouls are often depicted as long-lived, which means some of them can remember the world before the Great War. This makes ghouls an important storytelling tool, because they can provide first-hand accounts of pre-war life and early post-war survival. Fallout's creatures often reflect the idea of mutation and adaptation. Radroaches, mole rats, rad scorpions, and deathclaws are all examples of enemies that have become larger or more dangerous due to radiation and environmental changes. Deathclaws, in particular, are one of the most feared creatures in the series, known for their speed, strength, and lethality. Different games present Deathclaws in different ways, but they consistently represent one of the wasteland's most serious threats. Fallout 3 introduced the concept of karma in a major way, tracking the player's actions and influencing how the world responds. Karma affects interactions with certain characters and can change how the protagonist is described. Fallout New Vegas uses a reputation system that is more focused on factions and specific communities, tracking how different groups view the player. Fallout 4 uses a more direct companion affinity system, where companions react to the player's decisions and behavior. Fallout New Vegas is especially known for its faction-driven story, centered around Hoover Dam and control of the Mojave. The New California Republic is portrayed as a large democratic republic expanding eastward, while Caesar's Legion is portrayed as a brutal authoritarian empire built on conquest and slavery. Mr. House is portrayed as a pre-war businessman who preserved himself through technology and controls New Vegas through robots. The Courier can influence which power becomes dominant, leading to multiple possible endings. The Strip in Fallout New Vegas is a controlled area of New Vegas that is protected by Mr. House's Securitrons. The casinos on the Strip, such as the Tops, Gomorrah, and the Ultra Luxe, each have their own internal politics and storylines. The Strip represents a rare place in the wasteland where pre-war luxury is partially preserved, though it exists alongside poverty in nearby areas like Freeside. Fallout 4's settlement building system allows players to create communities in the Commonwealth. Players can place structures, beds, defenses, and resource-producing objects. Settlements can attract settlers, generate food and water, and serve as bases across the map. This system is closely tied to the Minutemen faction, which focuses on protecting settlements and rebuilding the region through mutual defense. The Institute in Fallout 4 is a technologically advanced underground faction responsible for creating synths. Synths are humanoid machines that can be nearly indistinguishable from humans. This creates paranoia in the Commonwealth, because communities fear infiltration and replacement. The Railroad is a faction dedicated to helping synths escape and start new lives, while the Brotherhood of Steel sees synths as a major threat. Fallout 76 focuses heavily on crafting and scavenging. Players can build a CAMP, which serves as a portable base and can craft weapons, armor, and supplies using materials found throughout Appalachia. Fallout 76's story includes the Scorched Plague, which turns creatures and humans into hostile Scorched, and it includes Scorch Beasts as major threats connected to the plague. Over time, Fallout 76 expanded to include more human NPCs and story content, changing the feel of the world compared to its launch version. The Fallout franchise includes recurring brands and companies that reflect pre-war consumer culture. Nuka-Cola is one of the most iconic, appearing as a collectible drink item across multiple games. Sunset Sarsaparilla appears in Fallout New Vegas as a major regional brand. Robco is the robotics company associated with Mr. House and produces many robots seen throughout the series. General Atomics is associated with robots like Mr. Handy, and these companies help make the pre-war world feel consistent across the franchise. Fallout's radio stations play a major role in atmosphere. Fallout 3 includes Galaxy News Radio, hosted by Three Dog, and Fallout 4 includes Diamond City Radio, hosted by Travis Miles. The radio music often includes older songs, reinforcing the series' retro aesthetic and creating contrast between cheerful tunes and devastated landscapes. Radio broadcasts can also react to player actions, making the world feel responsive. Fallout's lore often includes satire about government, war, and corporate power. The series' famous phrase, War Never Changes reflects its theme that human conflict continues even after civilization collapses. Fallout frequently shows pre-war propaganda posters, military recruitment messaging, and corporate advertisements that feel unsettling in hindsight because they exist alongside the knowledge that the world is heading toward nuclear destruction. Fallout's popularity has led to expansions beyond games. A live-action Fallout television series was released on Amazon Prime Video in 2024, bringing Fallout's world to a broader audience. The show uses the same universe and includes familiar themes and technology while telling its own story. Fallout remains one of the most influential post-apocalyptic franchises in gaming, known for its exploration, moral choices, and detailed world building. Fallout's pre-war history includes a long period of rising global tension driven by resource shortages, especially oil. In the Fallout universe, this culminates in major conflicts, such as the Sino-American War, where the United States and China fought over remaining resources. This period is often referenced through terminals, holotapes, and propaganda posters found throughout the games, and it helps explain why pre-war America became increasingly militarized and anxious in the years leading up to the Great War. One of the defining technological shifts in Fallout's timeline is the widespread adoption of nuclear power. Fallout's world developed nuclear technology as a dominant energy source, which influenced everything from household appliances to military hardware. This is why Fallout features nuclear-powered cars, nuclear batteries, and energy weapons that are far more common than they would be in real-world history. The heavy reliance on nuclear power also contributes to Fallout's distinctive retro-futuristic style, where advanced technology exists alongside mid-century design and culture. Robots are a major part of Fallout's world, and many were produced by companies such as Robco and General Atomics International. Robco is especially important because it is associated with Robert House, who later becomes the ruler of New Vegas. Robots in Fallout range from domestic assistants like Mr. Handy units to military and security robots such as Protectrons, Sentrybots, and Assaultrons. Many robots continue operating long after the Great War, sometimes following their original programming in ways that are helpful, neutral, or dangerous. Mr. Handy robots are among the most recognizable in the franchise. They are floating domestic robots designed for household assistance, featuring multiple arms and a thruster system. In Fallout 4, the sole survivor's neighborhood includes a Mr. Handy unit named Codsworth, who remains in Sanctuary Hills after the bombs fall. Codsworth is notable because he continues maintaining the neighborhood for centuries, showing how robotic programming can persist long after human society collapses. Protectrons are another common robot type in Fallout. They are bulky, humanoid robots, often used for security or law enforcement. Protectrons can be found guarding buildings, patrolling streets, or standing inactive until activated. Their simple design and slow movement make them visually distinct, and their presence in ruins reinforces Fallout's theme of old-world systems continuing without purpose. Sentry bots are heavily armed military robots designed for combat. They are typically larger and more dangerous than Protectrons, and they often appear guarding high-security locations. Assaultrons are another dangerous robot type, known for speed, agility, and advanced combat functions. Fallout's robots often serve as both enemies and environmental storytelling elements, showing how the pre-war world relied heavily on automation. Energy weapons are one of Fallout's most iconic technological features. Laser weapons and plasma weapons appear across multiple games, and they are typically associated with advanced military forces like the Brotherhood of Steel, the Enclave, or high-tech research facilities. Laser weapons are often portrayed as more precise, while plasma weapons are portrayed as more destructive. These weapons contribute to Fallout's distinctive combat identity and help separate the franchise from other post-apocalyptic settings that rely mostly on conventional firearms. The Brotherhood of Steel is closely tied to energy weapons and power armor, but their relationship to technology is philosophical as well as practical. The Brotherhood believes that uncontrolled technology help destroy the world, and they see themselves as guardians who must preserve and regulate advanced knowledge. This is why Brotherhood members often seek out pre-war research facilities, military bunkers, and caches of advanced weapons. The Enclave is another faction strongly associated with advanced technology. In Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, the Enclave uses sophisticated equipment, vertibirds, and advanced power armor. The Enclave's technology helps emphasize their identity as remnants of the pre-war government and military elite. Their presence in the wasteland often creates a sharp contrast between their clean, organized military style and the chaotic survival of most wasteland communities. Vertibirds are one of the most recognizable vehicles in Fallout. They are tilt-rotor aircraft used for transport and combat, and they are most commonly associated with the Enclave and the Brotherhood of Steel. Vertibirds appear in multiple games, and they often serve as symbols of military power because few factions have the resources and knowledge needed to operate aircraft in the wasteland. Power armor models vary across Fallout games. The T-45 power armor appears in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and is often depicted as an earlier model compared to later designs. The T-51 power armor is one of the most iconic models and is frequently associated with the Brotherhood of Steel. The T-60 power armor appears in Fallout 4 and is strongly associated with the Brotherhood's arrival in the Commonwealth. Fallout 4 also includes advanced models like X-1 power armor, which is associated with pre-war military development and Enclave-style design. Fusion cores are an important gameplay and lore element in Fallout 4 because they serve as a power source for power armor. Fusion cores can be found throughout the Commonwealth and are treated as valuable resources. Their inclusion reinforces Fallout's theme of scavenging old-world technology and keeping it functioning long after society collapses. The Fallout series includes many different types of mutated wildlife. Radstags, for example, appear in Fallout 4 as mutated deer-like creatures, while Brahmin appear across multiple games as two-headed cattle used for meat, milk, and transport. Brahmin are especially important in wasteland economies because they can be used as pack animals for caravans. Many settlements rely on Brahmin as part of their survival infrastructure. Caravans and trade networks are essential to Fallout's world building. In the West Coast games, trade routes help connect settlements and allow goods to move across long distances. In Fallout New Vegas, the Crimson Caravan Company is a major example of organized trade, operating within NCR territory and beyond. The existence of caravans shows that even in the wasteland, commerce and supply chains re-emerge as people rebuild society. The New California Republic is one of Fallout's most developed political entities. It began as a small settlement in Shady Sands and grew into a republic with laws, elections, and a military. The NCR is often portrayed as a flawed but ambitious attempt to rebuild democratic governance. It expands eastward in Fallout New Vegas, seeking to control resources like Hoover Dam and the Mojave's trade routes. The NCR's growth shows how civilization can return, but also how it can repeat the old world's problems, such as bureaucracy and corruption. Caesar's Legion is a major faction in Fallout New Vegas and it is portrayed as an authoritarian empire inspired by ancient Rome. The Legion is built on conquest, slavery, and strict hierarchy. Caesar believes that the wasteland requires brutal unity to survive, and the Legion's presence in the Mojave represents a direct ideological challenge to the NCR's democratic approach. Mr. House is one of the most unique leaders in Fallout because he is a pre-war businessman who preserved himself through life support technology. He controls New Vegas through Securitrons, which are robotic police units designed for defense and enforcement. Securitrons are visually recognizable by their rounded bodies, screens displaying faces, and wheel-based movement. Mr. House's survival and control of New Vegas demonstrate how pre-war power can persist into the post-war world through technology. The Strip's casinos in Fallout New Vegas each have distinct identities. The Tops is known for its entertainment and stage performances. Gomorrah is known for its darker atmosphere and criminal activity. The Ultralux is known for its high-class aesthetic and the influence of the White Glove Society. These casinos represent different ways the old world's luxury is recreated in the wasteland, often hiding corruption and danger beneath polished surfaces. Fallout's vault experiments remain one of the franchise's most discussed elements. Some vaults were designed to fail deliberately, while others were designed to test specific social conditions. Vault 22 inches. Fallout New Vegas, for example, is associated with plant research that goes wrong, while Vault 11 is associated with a harsh social experiment involving sacrifice. Fallout's vaults often reveal tragic stories of people trapped in controlled environments, showing that the pre-war world's cruelty was not limited to the bombs. The Fallout series has a consistent tradition of using music to create contrast. Cheerful songs from the mid-20th century play over scenes of destruction and decay, creating a mood that is both unsettling and memorable. This contrast is part of Fallout's identity, reinforcing its satirical view of pre-war optimism and propaganda. The music becomes a kind of echo from a world that believed in progress, even as it marched toward collapse. Fallout's world is also shaped by small details that appear repeatedly, such as Nuka-Cola vending machines, Vault-Tec posters, and abandoned terminals. These recurring objects create continuity across games, making the universe feel connected even when stories take place in different regions and time periods. The consistent presence of these details is part of what makes Fallout's setting feel coherent across decades of releases. Fallout continues to evolve as a franchise, with each major entry adding new mechanics, locations, and lore. Despite differences in gameplay style between titles, the series maintains consistent themes about survival, the persistence of conflict, and the difficulty of rebuilding after catastrophe. The combination of exploration, role-playing choice, and environmental storytelling remains central to Fallout's long-term appeal. Fallout's world-building often focuses on how people rebuild society in small, practical ways. Settlements in this series tend to form around access to water, defensible locations, and trade routes. Even in places filled with radiation and danger, communities still create markets, security systems, and local leadership structures. Many settlements survive by farming, scavenging, and trading, and Fallout frequently shows how fragile these communities can be when threatened by raiders, mutants, or larger factions competing for resources. Raiders are one of the most common enemy types across the Fallout series, and they represent the lawlessness that can emerge after civilization collapses. Raider groups vary by region and game, but they are typically defined by scavenged armor, improvised weapons, and violent behavior. Raiders often occupy abandoned buildings, highways, and factories, using these places as bases. Fallout's raiders are frequently shown as opportunistic, targeting travelers and settlements, and they are one of the main reasons many communities build walls and defenses. Many Fallout games include organized mercenary or security groups that offer protection for a price. In Fallout New Vegas, the Gunrunners are known for manufacturing and selling weapons, while groups like the Van Graffs specialize in energy weapon trading. In Fallout 3, the Talon Company appears as a hostile mercenary force, while the Regulators can be encountered as a group that hunts criminals. These factions show how the wasteland develops its own forms of law enforcement and commerce, often based on profit rather than public service. Fallout's weapon variety is one of the franchise's defining gameplay features. The series includes conventional firearms, such as pistols, rifles, and shotguns, as well as improvised weapons like tire irons and pipe guns. Energy weapons like laser rifles and plasma rifles appear alongside heavy weapons such as miniguns and missile launchers. The presence of both old-world firearms and advanced technology reinforces Fallout's theme of a world where the past and future exist side by side in the ruins. In Fallout 4, pipe weapons are especially common in the Commonwealth and reflect the region's scavenger culture. Pipe pistols, rifles, and automatic weapons are built from scrap metal and basic components, showing how people create functional tools without access to factories or organized weapon production. These weapons are often seen early in the game and highlight the scarcity and improvisation that define the wasteland. Fallout also includes iconic unique weapons that have become memorable among players. The Fat Man is a shoulder-fired mini-nuke launcher that appears in multiple Fallout games and is known for its destructive power. The name Fat Man references one of the nuclear bombs used in World War II, reinforcing Fallout's connection to real-world nuclear history and its alternate timelines fixation on atomic power. The Fat Man is often treated as a rare weapon, and using it is typically a dramatic moment due to the scale of its explosions. The series also features recurring melee weapons that emphasize survival improvisation. Items like baseball bats, sledgehammers, and combat knives appear in multiple games, while more specialized weapons, such as the Super Sledge, combine heavy impact with advanced technology. Melee weapons are often used when ammunition is scarce, and Fallout's combat systems allow players to specialize in close-range fighting through perks and character builds. Fallout's armor systems vary by game, but most titles include a wide range of clothing and protective gear. Leather armor, metal armor, combat armor, and power armor appear across multiple entries. Armor often reflects the region's resources and culture, with raider armor looking improvised and brutal, while faction armor looks standardized and organized. In Fallout New Vegas, faction armor can affect how certain groups react to the player, since disguises and uniforms are part of the game's reputation mechanics. The Fallout series often uses chems as a gameplay and lore element. Chems are drugs that provide temporary boosts, healing, or special effects. Stimpaks are one of the most iconic healing items used to restore health quickly. Other chems, like Radaway, reduce radiation, while Rad-X increases radiation resistance. Fallout frequently portrays chems as both useful and dangerous, since some can cause addiction, requiring players to manage long-term consequences. Fallout's radiation system is another consistent mechanic. Radiation exposure can come from contaminated water, food, environmental hotspots, or enemy attacks. In many games, radiation reduces the player's maximum health until treated. Items like Radaway and Rad-X are essential for managing radiation, and certain locations, such as nuclear craters or heavily bombed zones, are designed to be especially dangerous due to high radiation levels. Food and drink are important survival elements in Fallout, and different games handle them differently. In some titles, hunger and thirst mechanics are optional through survival modes, while in others, they are central. Fallout 4's survival mode, for example, adds hunger, thirst, fatigue, and disease systems, making food, clean water, and rest much more important. This mode changes the pacing of the game and emphasizes planning and resource management. Fallout's creatures often reflect the environment and region. Mirelurks appear as mutated crustacean-like creatures in multiple games, often found near water. Yao Guai are mutated bears, dangerous and aggressive. Rad scorpions are mutated scorpions, often appearing in desert regions. In Fallout 4, the Commonwealth includes creatures like radstags and bloatflies, while Fallout 76 includes a wider range of mutated wildlife influenced by Appalachia's ecosystem. Deathclaws remain one of Fallout's most iconic and feared creatures. They are fast, powerful, and heavily armored, making them extremely dangerous in combat. Deathclaws appear in multiple games, and their origins are connected to pre-war genetic experimentation. In Fallout 4, Deathclaws can appear early in the game, including in the Concord sequence, which introduces new players to the scale of danger the wasteland can contain. Fallout's companion systems vary across games, but companions are a major part of the series' storytelling. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas feature companions with personal quests and unique abilities. Fallout 4 expanded companion interactions through an affinity system, where companions react to the player's choices and behavior. Some companions can become romantically involved with the player in Fallout 4, depending on affinity and dialogue choices. Companions often provide commentary, combat support, and additional narrative depth. Fallout 4 includes several notable companions, such as Dogmeat, a German shepherd who can travel with the player without taking up a companion slot in certain versions of the game. Codsworth is a Mister. Handy robot who knew the sole survivor before the war. Piper is a journalist from Diamond City. Nick Valentine is a synth detective with a noir-inspired personality. These companions contribute to Fallout 4's storytelling by providing perspectives on the Commonwealth's factions and moral conflicts. Fallout. New Vegas companions are especially well known for their depth and connections to faction politics. Boone is a former NCR sniper dealing with personal tragedy. Veronica is tied to the Brotherhood of Steel and struggles with loyalty and reform. Arcade Gannon has ties to the Enclave's legacy. Cass is connected to caravan trade conflicts. Raoul is a ghoul mechanic with a long history. Lily is a Nightkin with a tragic backstory. EDE is an Eyebot companion tied to Enclave technology. These companions reflect the Mojave's diverse cultures and struggles. Fallout 3 companions include characters like Fox, a super mutant ally, and Star Paladin Cross from the Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 3 also includes Dogmeat as a companion, and Dogmeat is a recurring concept in the series, appearing in different forms across multiple games. Companions help make the wasteland feel less lonely and often provide unique combat advantages. The Fallout series includes many different vault numbers, each associated with a specific location and story. Vault 13 and Vault 15 are important in the early West Coast timeline. Vault 101 is central to Fallout 3. Vault 111 is central to Fallout 4. Vault 76 is central to Fallout 76. Vault 21 appears in Fallout New Vegas as a vault that was integrated into the New Vegas Strip area. Vaults often serve as major quest locations and storytelling centers. Fallout's humor often comes from its contrast between cheerful pre-war culture and post-war ruin. Advertisements, slogans, and corporate mascots remain visible long after the world ends, creating an unsettling tone. Fallout frequently uses exaggerated corporate branding and propaganda to critique consumer culture and militarism. Even small details, like cheerful Vault-Tec posters in a decayed building, contribute to this theme. Fallout's perk system is another important gameplay element. Perks provide character bonuses and special abilities, and different games implement perks differently. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas use perk selections at level up intervals, while Fallout 4 uses a perk chart system tied directly to special stats. Perks can affect combat, dialogue, crafting, exploration, and survival, allowing players to create highly specialized character builds. Fallout remains known for its combination of role playing, exploration, and player choice. The series encourages players to explore ruins, discover hidden stories, and interact with factions that have competing goals. Even though Fallout's world is harsh, it remains full of details that reward curiosity, and its long-term popularity comes from the way it blends serious themes with memorable characters, locations, and mechanics. Fallout's factions often reflect different philosophies about how the wasteland should be rebuilt, and this is one of the main reasons the series stays interesting across multiple games. Some factions believe order should come from laws and government, others believe order should come from strength and conquest, and some believe the old world should be abandoned entirely in favor of something new. Because Fallout's settings vary by region, each game highlights different factions, depending on what kinds of power exist in that area and what resources people are fighting over. The New California Republic, usually called the NCR, is one of the largest political powers in Fallout's world. The NCR began on the West Coast and expanded into a republic with elections, laws, taxes, and a standing army. In Fallout New Vegas, the NCR is portrayed as an ambitious government attempting to bring stability to the Mojave. The NCR's expansion is tied to practical needs like water, electricity, and trade routes, and the conflict over Hoover Dam is largely driven by the dam's ability to generate power and control the region's future. Hoover Dam is one of the most important strategic locations in Fallout New Vegas because it provides electricity through the Hoover Dam power plant, and it sits at a critical choke point between regions. Control of Hoover Dam affects New Vegas, the NCR, and the surrounding wasteland. The dam becomes the centerpiece of the Mojave's political conflict, and it is a major reason the region is contested by multiple factions. Caesar's Legion is the NCR's primary rival in Fallout New Vegas, and it is portrayed as an authoritarian empire built on conquest and strict control. The Legion is inspired by ancient Rome in its symbolism and rank structure, but its society is defined by slavery and military dominance. Caesar's ideology is based on the belief that the wasteland requires brutal unity to survive. In the game's story, Caesar seeks to conquer the Mojave and break the NCR's influence, viewing the Republic as weak and corrupt. Mr. House is another major power in Fallout New Vegas. He is a pre-war businessman who preserved himself through life support technology and remains alive centuries after the Great War. Mr. Fallout House controls the New Vegas Strip using Securitrons, robotic enforcers that patrol the area. House's long-term plan is to maintain control of New Vegas, protect it from outside conquest, and eventually push humanity toward rebuilding through technology and long-range ambition. His survival is one of Fallout's clearest examples of pre-war power continuing into the wasteland. The Securitrons in Fallout New Vegas are visually distinctive robots with rounded bodies, a screen displaying a face, and a wheel-based movement system. They are armed and serve as the Strip's main security force. Securitrons are central to Mr. House's control, and their presence shows how robotics can replace human soldiers when a faction has enough resources and technical knowledge. The strip itself is designed as a controlled and protected zone. It is surrounded by walls and guarded at entry points, and it requires caps to enter at certain stages of the story. The strip contains major casinos, such as the Tops, Gamora, and the Ultra Lux. Each casino is operated by a different family group that has its own internal politics. The strip represents a rare area in the wasteland where pre-war luxury and entertainment are partially preserved, even though it exists near poverty-stricken Freeside. Freeside is the area outside the strip, and it shows a different side of New Vegas. Freeside is poorer, more dangerous, and filled with people struggling to survive. The contrast between Freeside and the Strip is one of Fallout New Vegas's most memorable world-building details, showing how wealth and protection can exist alongside hardship and instability. Groups like the Kings operate in Freeside and act as a local power, sometimes protecting residents and sometimes clashing with other factions. The Brotherhood of Steel appears in Fallout New Vegas as a smaller and more isolated group compared to some other games. This chapter of the Brotherhood is largely hidden in a bunker and is focused on survival and preserving technology. Their conflict with the NCR is tied to the Brotherhood's belief that the NCR cannot be trusted with advanced weapons and equipment. The Mojave Brotherhood situation shows how the Brotherhood can become defensive and secretive when it is outmatched by larger forces. The Followers of the Apocalypse are a humanitarian faction in Fallout New Vegas. They focus on providing medical care, education, and aid to wasteland communities. The Followers are based in Freeside, where they run a clinic and try to improve life for residents. Their presence adds an important perspective to Fallout's faction politics because they are less focused on conquest or power and more focused on survival through knowledge and compassion. Fallout New Vegas also includes smaller factions that shape the Mojave's identity. The Great Khans are a raider-descended group with a tribal culture and a history of conflict with the NCR. The Boomers are an isolated community living at Nellis Air Force Base, known for using artillery to keep outsiders away. The Powder Gangers are escaped convicts who become a threat in the early game. These groups show how the wasteland contains many levels of power, from major nations to small local gangs. Fallout 3's faction conflict is centered more heavily on the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave. Fallout 3's Brotherhood chapter, led by Elder Lyons, is notable for focusing on protecting civilians and fighting super mutants. This makes them more openly heroic than some Brotherhood chapters. The Enclave in Fallout 3 is portrayed as a technologically advanced military force seeking control over Project Purity, a large water purification project. The conflict between these factions shapes the Capital Wasteland's future. Project Purity is one of Fallout 3's most important story elements. It is a water purification system located at the Jefferson Memorial and designed to provide clean drinking water to the Capital Wasteland. Access to clean water is one of the most important survival resources in Fallout, and Project Purity becomes a major symbol of hope. It also becomes a source of conflict because whoever controls the purifier can control the region's most valuable resource. The Enclave's presence in Fallout 3 includes the use of vertibirds, advanced weapons, and power armor. Vertibirds are military aircraft that appear in multiple Fallout games, and they are often associated with the Enclave and the Brotherhood. Their ability to deploy soldiers quickly and provide air support makes them a symbol of organized military strength in the wasteland. Fallout 4's major factions reflect the Commonwealth's unique struggles. The Minutemen are a militia faction focused on protecting settlements and rebuilding community defense. The Minutemen are tied closely to Fallout 4's settlement building system, and they represent the idea of ordinary people organizing to survive together. The Minutemen's decline and potential restoration is one of Fallout 4's major story arcs. The Railroad is a secretive faction in Fallout 4 dedicated to helping synths escape the Institute. The Railroad treats synths as people who deserve freedom, and they operate through hidden safe houses and coded communication. Their ideology makes them controversial in the Commonwealth because many humans fear synths as potential threats. The Railroad's story explores themes of identity, personhood, and resistance movements. The Institute is Fallout 4's most technologically advanced faction, operating from an underground facility and producing synths. The Institute's scientific power allows it to influence the Commonwealth in ways other factions cannot. The Institute's secrecy and its practice of replacing individuals with synths contributes to widespread paranoia. The Institute's existence raises questions about whether technological progress without ethical restraint can become another form of tyranny. The Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4 arrives in the Commonwealth aboard the Pridewin, an airship that serves as a mobile base. This Brotherhood chapter is led by Elder Maxon and is more militarized than the Brotherhood in Fallout 3. They view many wasteland threats, including synths, as dangers that must be eliminated. The Pridwin's arrival is one of Fallout 4's most visually dramatic moments and represents the Brotherhood's power and influence. Fallout 76 features a different set of factions, including groups like the Responders, who were emergency workers and volunteers trying to rebuild Appalachia after the war. The Free States were survivalists who distrusted the government and prepared for collapse. The Brotherhood of Steel also appears in Appalachia through later story expansions. Fallout 76's factions show how different groups responded to the early post-war world, often with limited resources and incomplete information. Fallout's factions are often supported by distinct aesthetics and equipment that reinforce their identities. NCR soldiers wear uniforms and use conventional firearms, reflecting a structured military. Caesar's Legion uses melee weapons, improvised armor, and Roman-inspired imagery. The Brotherhood uses power armor and energy weapons, reflecting advanced technology. The Institute uses clean, futuristic equipment, reflecting scientific control. These differences make Fallout's faction conflicts visually clear, even when the moral choices are complex. One of Fallout's consistent themes is that no faction is perfect. Even groups that aim to rebuild society often carry flaws from the old world, such as corruption, prejudice, or authoritarian control. Fallout stories frequently ask players to consider what kind of future is worth building and whether stability is worth the cost of freedom. This is part of why Fallout remains known for its moral complexity and its willingness to present difficult choices without simple answers. Across the franchise, faction conflicts shape the Wasteland's development, but smaller communities and individuals often survive in the gaps between major powers. Traders, scavengers, doctors, and settlers keep moving forward even when nations fight over territory. Fallout's world is not defined only by large armies, but also by the quiet persistence of people trying to live another day. Fallout's locations are often designed around the idea that every place has a history, even if the people who lived there are long gone. Many areas in the series tell their stories through layout, objects, and scattered records, rather than direct narration. This is one of the reasons exploring in Fallout can feel slow and immersive, because the games encourage players to move carefully, look closely, and piece together what happened in a building or neighborhood based on what remains. One of the most common location types in Fallout is the ruined town. Towns in the Wasteland are often built from scrap, reinforced with metal sheets and wooden barricades, and surrounded by defensive structures. Many towns form around a useful resource, such as a water source, farmland, a factory, or a defensible ruin. Towns like Megaton in Fallout 3, Goodsprings in Fallout, New Vegas, and Diamond City in Fallout 4 each represent different approaches to survival, shaped by their geography and the threats nearby. Megaton is notable because it is built around an unexploded nuclear bomb. The town's layout reflects scavenger engineering, with buildings made from aircraft parts, scrap metal, and mismatched materials. Megaton's existence shows how wasteland communities repurpose dangerous remnants of the old world into the foundations of daily life. It also demonstrates Fallout's tendency to mix dark humor with tragedy, because the bomb is both a symbol of destruction and an ordinary part of the town's identity. Rivet City in Fallout 3 is a settlement built inside an aircraft carrier. Its design emphasizes the idea that large pre-war structures can become new homes. Rivet City's interior is divided into sections like a marketplace, living quarters, and medical facilities. The fact that people live inside a ship that was never meant to be a permanent town reflects Fallout's theme of adaptation, where survival depends on using whatever the old world left behind. In Fallout, New Vegas itself is a rare example of a functioning city with preserved entertainment culture. The strip is protected by walls and robotic security, and it contains casinos with relatively clean interiors compared to most wasteland locations. The surrounding areas, like Freeside, show how even within the same region, living conditions can vary drastically depending on protection and wealth. This contrast is one of Fallout New Vegas's most memorable world-building elements. The Lucky 38 Casino is one of the most iconic buildings in Fallout New Vegas. It is the home base of Mr. House, who controls New Vegas through Securitrons. The Lucky 38 is notable because it remains largely sealed and protected for much of the game, making it feel like a preserved fragment of the pre-war world. The building's design reinforces Mr. House's role as a pre-war figure who survived through technology and isolation. Hoover Dam is one of the most important locations in Fallout New Vegas because it provides power and water control for the region. The dam is central to the conflict between the NCR, Caesar's Legion, and Mr. House. Its importance is based on practical survival needs, since electricity and water distribution are critical resources in the Mojave. Hoover Dam's presence shows how Fallout's major conflicts often revolve around infrastructure, not just ideology. In Fallout 4, Diamond City is one of the Commonwealth's most important settlements. It is built inside Fenway Park, using the stadium's walls as natural defenses. Diamond City includes a market, security force, and residential areas, and it functions as a regional hub for trade and information. The city's design shows how pre-war landmarks can become centers of post-war life, and it also reflects Fallout 4's themes of paranoia, since Diamond City residents fear infiltration by synths. Goodneighbor is another major settlement in Fallout 4, and it has a different atmosphere from Diamond City. Goodneighbor is portrayed as a rougher, more lawless town, where criminals and outsiders can survive. It is run by a local leader known as Hancock, and it contains places like the Third Rail. Goodneighbor highlights how the Commonwealth contains multiple social spaces, from structured communities to chaotic safe havens. Sanctuary Hills is the sole survivor's pre-war neighborhood in Fallout 4 and becomes one of the first major settlement locations. Sanctuary is notable because it begins as a clean suburban area in the prologue and later becomes a ruined neighborhood filled with debris and broken houses. The The contrast between pre-war and post-war Sanctuary reinforces Fallout's theme of loss, and its later use as a settlement building location ties the protagonist's personal history to rebuilding efforts. Fallout's vaults remain some of the most memorable locations in the series because each vault has a unique story. Vault 101 inches. Fallout 3 is defined by its long-term isolation and strict overseer control. Vault 111 inches. Fallout 4 is defined by cryogenic experimentation and sudden collapse. Vault 22 inches, Fallout New Vegas, is defined by agricultural research that goes wrong. Vault 11 inches, Fallout New Vegas is defined by a social experiment involving sacrifice and political manipulation. These vaults often reveal tragic outcomes, showing that survival inside the vaults was not always safe or humane. Vault 21 inches. Fallout New Vegas is an unusual case because it was integrated into New Vegas itself. Vault 21 was originally inhabited by vault dwellers who used gambling to settle disputes, reflecting a vault culture built around chance. Mr. House later took control of the vault and partially filled it with concrete to prevent it from being used as a threat. This vault story fits the New Vegas theme of gambling and control. In Fallout 3, the Washington, D.C. ruins are filled with major landmarks, including the Capitol building and the Washington Monument. These locations are often heavily damaged and surrounded by danger. The presence of real-world monuments in Fallout 3 reinforces the sense that the old world was once powerful and symbolic, but now it is shattered and reclaimed by the wasteland. The ruined National Mall area is one of Fallout 3's most recognizable settings. The metro tunnels in Fallout 3 are an important part of exploration because they connect different areas of the city. The tunnels are dark, confusing, and often filled with enemies like ghouls or raiders. The metro system creates a claustrophobic atmosphere that contrasts with the open wasteland, and it becomes one of the game's most memorable environmental features. Fallout's interiors often include terminals that provide access to pre-war emails, logs, and security systems. Terminals are one of the franchise's most consistent storytelling tools. They often reveal what happened before the bombs fell, or what survivors did afterward. Terminals can also be used to unlock doors, disable turrets, or activate robots. This makes them important for both lore and gameplay. Fallout's hospitals, research labs, and military facilities often serve as high-risk locations with valuable rewards. These places are usually filled with enemies and environmental hazards, but they also contain advanced loot, such as chems, weapons, and power armor pieces. Their design reinforces Fallout's theme that the old world's most powerful places are often the most dangerous to explore. Fallout's factories and industrial sites are common locations because they provide materials and reflect pre-war mass production. Factories often contain machinery, storage areas, and worker spaces, and they sometimes include evidence of pre-war labor conditions. These locations show how pre-war America relied heavily on industry and automation, and their ruins become part of the wasteland's scavenging economy. Fallout's amusement parks and entertainment locations often highlight the contrast between cheerful pre-war culture and post-war ruin. In Fallout 4's Nuka World expansion, the park is filled with raiders and themed attractions, showing how entertainment spaces can become battlegrounds. In Fallout 3, locations like the Republic of Dave or various small settlements provide odd humor and unique local stories. These places add variety to exploration and reinforce Fallout's mix of satire and tragedy. Fallout's geography and region design influence the tone of each game. The Mojave's desert environment creates long sightlines and emphasizes travel between scattered settlements. The capital wasteland's ruined cityscape creates a feeling of claustrophobia and constant danger. The Commonwealth combines urban ruins with forests and coastlines, supporting both exploration and settlement building. Appalachia, in Fallout 76, emphasizes mountains, forests, and wildlife, creating a different kind of wasteland atmosphere. Fallout's map design often includes hidden locations and optional stories that reward curiosity. Many players discover unique encounters by exploring off the main road, entering small buildings, or reading notes. This design philosophy encourages slow exploration, which fits the franchise's pacing and helps the world feel layered and deep. Across the Fallout series, the most memorable locations often become iconic because they are more than just places to fight enemies. They are places where the past and present collide. They hold stories of survival, failure, and adaptation. They remind players that the world ended suddenly, but life continued in strange and determined ways, building new homes inside the bones of the old world. Fallout storytelling is often built around small details that suggest what daily life looked like before the Great War. Even though most of the games take place long after 2077, the pre-war world still feels present through advertisements, household objects, and the design of public spaces. Fallout frequently shows that pre-war America was both technologically advanced and socially unstable, with heavy propaganda, corporate influence, and constant reminders of war. This makes the ruined world feel like the result of a long buildup, not just a sudden disaster. One of the most consistent details across Fallout games is the presence of Vault-Tec posters and safety messaging. Vault-Tec advertisements often appear cheerful and reassuring, promising protection and a better future. In hindsight, these messages can feel unsettling because the player learns that many vaults were built as experiments rather than purely humanitarian shelters. This contrast between friendly branding and hidden cruelty is a major part of Fallout's satire, and it appears repeatedly in terminals, recordings, and environmental design. Fallout's pre-war companies are an important part of its world building. Brands like Nuka-Cola, Robco, General Atomics, and Vault-Tec appear across multiple games. These companies often had enormous influence, and their products remain scattered throughout the wasteland. The continued presence of corporate branding in Ruins emphasizes how deeply consumer culture was embedded in pre-war life. In Fallout, corporate identity survives longer than many human institutions, because logos and slogans remain on walls even when cities are empty. Nuka-Cola is one of the most iconic fictional brands in Fallout. It appears in nearly every major Fallout game as a consumable item and collectible. Nuka-Cola is often used for healing and can have multiple variants depending on the game, such as Nuka-Cola Quantum, which is known for its bright blue glow. Nuka-Cola's presence helps reinforce Fallout's retro consumer culture, and the brand's popularity within the universe suggests it was a major symbol of pre-war everyday life. In Fallout New Vegas, Sunset Sarsaparilla serves a similar role as a regional beverage brand. It is associated with the Mojave and has its own lore, including collectible star bottle caps tied to a side quest. This detail shows how Fallout's world building includes regional variations, where different areas maintain their own cultural remnants and consumer products. Robco is one of the most important pre-war corporations in Fallout's lore. It is closely associated with Robert House and is responsible for producing many robotic systems seen throughout the series. Robco terminals and facilities appear in multiple games, and the company's influence helps explain why robots remain so common in the wasteland. Robco's continued presence reinforces Fallout's theme of automation, outlasting humanity's ability to control it. General Atomics International is another major robotics company in Fallout's universe. It is most strongly associated with Mr. Handy robots, including the Mr. Gutsy combat variant. Mr. Gutsy units often appear as aggressive military robots, while Mr. Handy units are usually domestic assistants. The difference between these robot types shows how pre-war technology served both comfort and war, sometimes using similar designs for very different purposes. Fallout's robots often follow their programming long after the war, sometimes without understanding the world has ended. This leads to encounters where robots continue performing routines like patrolling, cleaning, or offering services in abandoned locations. These moments can feel eerie because they show how machines can keep working even when their purpose is gone. Fallout frequently uses this idea to create atmosphere, highlighting the emptiness of the wasteland through automated behavior. The Fallout series includes a wide range of computer terminals, and terminals are one of the most important storytelling tools in the franchise. Terminals often contain pre-war emails, security logs, and personal notes. They can reveal office politics, military planning, corporate secrets, or the final moments of people who lived through the war. Terminals also serve gameplay purposes by allowing players to unlock doors, disable turrets, or activate robots. The combination of lore and utility makes terminals a central feature of exploration. Holotapes are another common storytelling device. Holotapes can contain audio recordings, personal messages, training materials, or even games. Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 use holotapes extensively to deliver narrative details without forcing long cutscenes. This approach supports the series' exploration-driven storytelling, where players learn about the world by finding what was left behind. Fallout's humor often comes from pre-war propaganda and advertising that feels exaggerated and unsettling. Military recruitment posters, cheerful safety slogans, and corporate promotions appear in ruined spaces, creating a contrast between optimism and destruction. Fallout's satire is often aimed at consumerism, militarism, and the idea that technological progress automatically leads to a better future. In Fallout's universe, progress exists, but it is often used in destructive or unethical ways. The phrase "war never changes" is one of Fallout's most recognizable lines and reflects the series' themes. Fallout repeatedly shows that human conflict continues even after the end of the world. Different factions fight over resources, territory, and ideology, often repeating patterns of conquest, corruption, and power struggles. The phrase suggests that while technology and culture may change, the basic forces driving war remain consistent. Fallout's weapons and equipment often have distinct naming conventions tied to military development. Power armor models like T-45, T-51, and T-60 suggest a progression of design. The X-1 power armor design is associated with advanced pre-war development and resembles Enclave aesthetics. This equipment progression helps reinforce Fallout's military-industrial background, where technological development was heavily driven by war. The Enclave is one of Fallout's most technologically advanced factions, and its equipment reflects that. Enclave soldiers often wear advanced power armor and use energy weapons. They also use vertibirds for transport and deployment. Vertibirds are one of the few functioning aircraft types in the Fallout universe, and they symbolize organized military power because most wasteland factions cannot maintain air travel. The Brotherhood of Steel is another faction strongly associated with advanced equipment. Brotherhood knights and paladins often wear power armor and use laser weapons. The Brotherhood's focus on technology makes them a recurring presence across the franchise, but their behavior varies depending on chapter leadership. In Fallout 3, Elder Lyons leads a more protective brotherhood that fights super mutants and helps civilians. In Fallout 4, Elder Maxon leads a more militarized brotherhood that views synths and certain mutants as threats to be eliminated. Synths are one of Fallout 4's most significant additions to Fallout lore. Synths are humanoid machines created by the Institute, and they can be nearly indistinguishable from humans. This creates paranoia in the Commonwealth because people fear that synths may infiltrate communities. Fallout 4 explores questions about identity, personhood, and freedom through the conflict over synths, with factions like the Railroad seeking to help synths escape and the Brotherhood seeking to destroy them. Nick Valentine is a companion in Fallout 4 who is notable because he is a synth with a detective personality. Nick's design and behavior are inspired by noir storytelling, and he serves as an example of how synths can have complex identities. His existence complicates the Commonwealth's fear of synths because he demonstrates empathy and loyalty, challenging the idea that synths are simply machines. Fallout's wasteland economies often depend on scavenging and repurposing. Items like scrap metal, duct tape, and pre-war components become valuable because they can be used to repair equipment or build new tools. Fallout 4's crafting system emphasizes this by allowing players to break down junk items into components. This mechanic reflects the series' broader theme that survival often depends on using whatever remains of the old world. Caravans and trade networks are essential to many Fallout regions. In Fallout New Vegas, groups like the Crimson Caravan Company represent organized trade, moving goods across dangerous routes. Caravans often require guards and pack animals like Brahmin, which are mutated two-headed cattle used for transport. The presence of caravans shows that even in the wasteland, supply chains re-emerge, allowing settlements to specialize and trade for what they lack. Brahmin are one of Fallout's most recognizable mutated animals. They appear in multiple games as livestock used for milk, meat, and carrying cargo. Brahmin often wear packs or harnesses when used in caravans. Their survival and usefulness show how the wasteland adapts existing animals into new roles, creating a new form of agriculture and trade. Fallout's cooking and food systems reflect scarcity and survival. Many foods in Fallout are preserved pre-war items like Salisbury steak, sugar bombs, and cram. These packaged foods often remain edible in the games, despite being centuries old, which is part of Fallout's exaggerated style. Fresh food sources like crops and meat also appear, especially in games with settlement systems. Fallout 4 allows players to farm crops like mutfruit, corn, and potatoes, showing how agriculture becomes a foundation for rebuilding. Across the series, Fallout balances large-scale faction conflict with small, personal stories. Players can find notes from families trying to survive, recordings of final messages, or small scenes frozen in time. These details help make the wasteland feel emotional without relying on direct narration. Fallout's ability to make quiet ruins feel meaningful is one of the reasons exploration remains central to the franchise's identity. Even when Fallout's world is filled with danger, it is also filled with traces of ordinary life. Old toys, kitchen tables, office desks, and school classrooms remain scattered through ruins. These objects create a sense of realism within the exaggerated setting, reminding players that the world that ended was still made up of everyday routines. Fallout's atmosphere often comes from this contrast, where the smallest details can make the wasteland feel strangely familiar. Fallout's gameplay systems often reflect the idea that survival in the wasteland is a mix of planning, scavenging, and adapting to unpredictable danger. Even though the Fallout series is known for its lore and atmosphere, it also has a long history of mechanical details that shape how players experience the world. Over time, the franchise has shifted between turn-based combat, real-time combat, and hybrid systems, but the core idea has remained consistent. The player is always managing limited resources while exploring a world full of risk. The original Fallout and Fallout 2 used turn-based combat and an isometric perspective. This means that combat happens in turns, with characters spending action points to move, attack, reload, or use items. This system emphasizes tactics and careful decision-making. Players can aim at specific body parts, which can cause different effects, such as crippling limbs. This targeted combat concept later inspired the VATS system used in the 3D Fallout games. Fallout 3 introduced Fallout's shift into a first-person and third-person 3D open world. This change required the series to adapt its combat pacing. Fallout 3 uses real-time shooting combined with VATS, allowing players to pause combat and target specific body parts. VATS uses action points, often shortened to AP, which regenerate over time. This hybrid approach allows Fallout to retain some of its tactical roots while still functioning as a modern 3D action RPG. Fallout. New Vegas uses a similar system to Fallout 3, but adds more weapon customization and ammunition variety. New Vegas includes different ammo types for certain weapons, such as armor-piercing rounds or hollow-point rounds. These ammunition types can change how effective a weapon is against different enemies. This adds an extra layer of preparation and makes combat feel more connected to planning and resource management. Fallout 4 made major changes to combat and character progression. Fallout 4's gunplay is more responsive compared to Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and it includes a more detailed weapon modification system. Players can customize weapons with different receivers, barrels, stocks, sights, and magazines. This customization system allows a single weapon to be modified into different roles, such as a sniper rifle, an automatic weapon, or a close-range combat tool. Fallout 4 also changed the way character progression works by removing the traditional skill point system. Instead of allocating skill points into categories like small guns or science, Fallout 4 uses a perk chart tied directly to special stats. Each level allows the player to select a perk, and perks can improve combat abilities, crafting, settlement building, and dialogue options. This system encourages players to build characters through perk choices rather than numerical skill investment. Crafting is a major part of Fallout 4's identity. Players can break down junk items into components such as steel, adhesive, screws, and circuitry. These components can then be used to build weapon mods, armor mods, and settlement structures. This system makes exploration more meaningful because even seemingly useless objects can become valuable. It also reinforces Fallout's theme of rebuilding from scraps, where the remnants of the old world become the materials for the new one. Settlement building in Fallout 4 allows players to create communities across the Commonwealth. Players can build beds, water pumps, generators, turrets, and walls. Settlements can produce food and water, and they can attract settlers. Settlements can also be attacked by raiders or other enemies, which adds a defensive management aspect. This system is strongly tied to the Minutemen faction, which focuses on protecting settlements and forming a network of mutual support. Fallout 4's power armor system is significantly different from earlier games. Power armor functions as a wearable exoskeleton rather than a normal armor item. It requires a power armor frame and individual pieces such as helmet, torso, arms, and legs. Power armor also uses fusion cores as fuel. Fusion cores drain over time while the player uses the suit, and managing fusion core supply becomes an important part of power armor gameplay. Different power armor models appear across Fallout games. The T-45 model is one of the earliest commonly seen designs in the 3D games. The T-51 model is one of the most iconic designs and is strongly associated with the Brotherhood of Steel. The T-60 model appears prominently in Fallout 4 and is associated with the Brotherhood's presence in the Commonwealth. The X-1 model is an advanced design associated with pre-war military development and Enclave-style technology. Fallout's enemy design often includes mechanical weaknesses that affect combat strategy. Many enemies can be crippled by targeting limbs. Crippling a leg can slow down certain creatures, while crippling an arm can reduce a humanoid enemy's weapon effectiveness. VATS makes these strategies more accessible by allowing players to target specific body parts. This creates a sense of tactical control, even in chaotic fights. Fallout's perk system often includes perks that change how the player interacts with the world, not just combat. Perks can allow players to pick advanced locks, hack terminals, carry more weight, or gain better prices in trading. Perks can also unlock crafting options, such as building advanced weapon mods or creating stronger chems. This variety supports different playstyles, allowing players to focus on combat strength, stealth, diplomacy, or crafting. Lockpicking and hacking are common systems across Fallout games. Lockpicking allows players to open locked containers and doors, often rewarding exploration with extra loot or alternate routes. Hacking allows players to access terminals, which can reveal lore entries or provide control over security systems. The hacking minigame in Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4 involves selecting correct passwords from lists of words with feedback based on letter similarity. This system has become a recognizable Fallout mechanic. Fallout's inventory management is a major part of survival gameplay. Players often carry weapons, ammo, healing items, chems, food, and crafting materials. Carry weight limits require players to make choices about what to keep and what to leave behind. Items like backpacks do not exist in the same way they might in other RPGs, so players often rely on perks or companions to increase carry capacity. Companions can assist in combat and carry additional items. Fallout 4 includes a companion affinity system where companions react to the player's actions and dialogue choices. Over time, companions can become more loyal and provide special perks. This system encourages players to consider how their choices affect relationships, adding a social layer to gameplay. Fallout's survival mechanics vary depending on difficulty settings. Fallout 4's survival mode adds hunger, thirst, fatigue, and disease, requiring players to eat, drink, and rest. It also changes saving mechanics and increases danger, making travel and combat more risky. Fallout New Vegas includes a hardcore mode that adds similar survival elements, such as requiring food, water, and sleep, and it also changes how healing works by making stimpaks heal over time rather than instantly. Fallout stealth systems allow players to avoid combat or gain advantages through sneak attacks. Stealth is often supported by perks that increase sneak effectiveness or improve critical hits. Silenced weapons and melee weapons can be used for stealth kills. Stealth builds are popular because they allow players to conserve ammunition and control encounters more carefully. Critical hits are another consistent combat element. In Fallout 3 and New Vegas, critical hits can occur randomly based on stats and perks. In Fallout 4, Critical hits can be stored and triggered manually through VATs, giving players more control over when to use them. This change makes critical hits feel more strategic and ties them more directly to VATs. Usage. Fallout's loot system often encourages exploring dangerous areas for rare rewards. High-level locations may contain advanced weapons, power armor pieces, or valuable crafting components. Some locations include unique weapons with special names and effects. Collecting these items can become a major motivation for exploration, and it supports the feeling that the wasteland is full of hidden treasures buried inside ruins. Fallout's progression systems also encourage replayability. Players can create different character builds by focusing on different special stats and perks. A character with high charisma may succeed in dialogue checks and avoid combat, while a character with high strength may rely on heavy weapons or melee combat. A character with high intelligence may gain more experience or access advanced crafting. These differences allow players to experience the same world in different ways. Fallout's modding community has played a significant role in the franchise's long-term popularity, especially for Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4 on PC. Mods can add new quests, weapons, graphics improvements, and gameplay changes. Fallout 4 includes official mod support on certain platforms through Bethesda's mod service. The presence of mods has allowed players to extend the lifespan of these games and customize their experiences. Fallout's downloadable content expansions often add new areas and storylines. Fallout 3 expansions include The Pit, which explores a raider-controlled industrial city, and Point Lookout, which features a swampy coastal region with a different atmosphere. Fallout New Vegas expansions include Dead Money, Honest Hearts, Old World Blues, and Lonesome Road, each with distinct themes and settings. Fallout 4 expansions include Far Harbor, which features a foggy island setting, and Nuka World, which centers on a raider-controlled amusement park. Far Harbor is notable for its atmosphere and moral complexity. It features factions such as the people of Far Harbor, the Children of Adam, and the synth community of Acadia. The fog and mutated creatures create a unique environment compared to the Commonwealth. Nuka World is notable for introducing multiple raider gangs and allowing the player to interact with them in a way that changes settlement dynamics. Fallout's tone is shaped not only by story and atmosphere, but also by the pacing created through its systems. The need to scavenge, manage inventory, repair gear, and plan travel makes exploration feel deliberate. Even when the world is open and large, Fallout encourages slow movement, careful preparation, and attention to small details. This combination of mechanics and world building is one of the reasons Fallout remains recognizable across decades of releases. Fallout's sound design and music are a major reason the series feels so distinct. Even when nothing is happening, Fallout worlds rarely feel completely silent. There is usually wind moving through broken structures, distant metallic creaks, radio static, or the soft hum of machinery that has been running for centuries. These sounds create an atmosphere where the wasteland feels alive, even when it is empty. Fallout uses audio not only to build mood, but also to guide exploration, warn of danger, and remind the player that the world is old, damaged, and still moving. One of Fallout's most recognizable audio elements is the Pip-Boy radio. Many Fallout games allow the player to listen to radio stations while traveling. The music selections often include real-world songs from the mid-20th century, especially styles like jazz, swing, and early pop. These cheerful songs create a strong contrast with the ruined world, and that contrast becomes part of Fallout's identity. The radio can make travel feel calmer, but it can also make the world feel more unsettling because the upbeat music plays over scenes of decay and danger. Fallout 3 features Galaxy News Radio, which is hosted by a character known as Three Dog. Three Dog's broadcasts include music, commentary, and news about the player's actions. This helps make the world feel reactive because the radio host can describe events the player caused. Fallout 3 also includes Enclave Radio, which is hosted by President John Henry Eden. Enclave Radio broadcasts patriotic propaganda and reflects the Enclave's worldview. The existence of two competing radio voices reinforces Fallout's theme of ideology and control, even in a ruined world. Fallout. New Vegas features Radio New Vegas, hosted by Mr. New Vegas. Mr. New Vegas has a calm, smooth radio personality and provides commentary on events in the Mojave. Fallout. New Vegas also includes stations like Mojave Music Radio and Black Mountain Radio, the latter hosted by the super mutant Tabitha. These radio stations add variety and personality to the Mojave, making the region feel culturally alive despite the harsh environment. Fallout 4 features Diamond City Radio, hosted by Travis Miles. Travis's personality can change depending on player actions, and his broadcasts contribute to the feeling that Diamond City is a cultural center in the Commonwealth. Fallout 4 also includes classical radio and other station options. The presence of radio in Fallout 4 helps break up long stretches of exploration and reinforces the series' habit of mixing comfort with unease. Fallout 76 also includes radio, and its music and broadcasts contribute to Appalachia's atmosphere. Fallout 76's world is filled with natural sounds like insects, birds, wind, and distant animal calls. This creates a different feeling compared to the urban ruins of Fallout 3 or the dense city areas of Fallout 4. Appalachia can feel peaceful at times, but the calm is often interrupted by sudden danger, which makes the soundscape an important part of tension. Fallout's ambient sound often changes depending on location. In city ruins, the player may hear distant echoes, broken metal shifting, and the sound of rubble underfoot. In tunnels and underground areas, the sound becomes more enclosed, with dripping water, distant groans, and the hum of old machinery. In open desert areas like the Mojave, wind becomes a dominant sound, and long stretches of travel can feel quiet and expansive. These sound differences help make each region feel unique. Fallout's use of silence is also important. In many areas, the absence of music and voices can create a feeling of isolation. When the radio is turned off, the player hears only footsteps, breathing, and environmental noise. This can make exploration feel slower and more focused. Fallout's ability to shift between comforting music and empty quietness gives the series a flexible tone that can feel calm one moment and unsettling the next. The Fallout series is also known for its distinctive visual style, and that style is closely tied to how the games use lighting and color. Fallout 3 is often associated with a greenish tint and a bleak, desaturated look. This visual tone reinforces the Capital Wasteland's harshness and decay. Fallout. New Vegas uses warmer tones, with orange and yellow desert lighting, which makes the Mojave feel sun-scorched and dry. Fallout 4 uses more varied color, with brighter daylight and stronger contrast between natural landscapes and ruined urban spaces. Lighting in Fallout often affects mood more than realism. Interiors are frequently dim, with light coming from flickering bulbs, broken windows, or the glow of terminals. Many locations are lit by the green light of the Pip-Boy, which becomes a signature part of Fallout exploration. The Pip-Boy light creates a narrow, focused illumination that emphasizes how little control the player has over the darkness in abandoned buildings. Fallout's user interface design is also a major part of its identity. The Pip-Boy menu is styled like a retro computer display, with simple text, icons, and a monochrome look. This interface is used for inventory management, quest tracking, and character stats. Fallout's interface is intentionally stylized to feel like a piece of in-universe technology rather than a modern menu. This helps immersion, because the player feels like they are actually using a device on their arm. Fallout's map systems vary by game, but they generally rely on discovering locations through exploration. As the player travels, new map markers appear, and the world gradually becomes more familiar. Fast travel exists in many Fallout games, but it is sometimes restricted in survival modes. The act of discovering locations is important because it reinforces Fallout's exploration loop. Move through the wasteland, find something interesting, investigate, and learn what happened there. Fallout's quest design often allows multiple solutions, especially in Fallout New Vegas. Players can complete quests through combat, stealth, dialogue, or faction alliances. Dialogue checks often depend on skills or stats, such as speech in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, or charisma and perk requirements in Fallout 4. This design supports role-playing because players can shape their character's personality and approach to problems. Fallout's dialogue systems have changed over time. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas use dialogue options with full text displayed, allowing players to see exactly what they will say. Fallout 4 introduced a dialogue wheel system where options are summarized rather than fully written out. This change was controversial among some players because it reduced clarity and made dialogue outcomes less predictable. Fallout 76 later adjusted its dialogue approach with updates that reintroduced more traditional role-playing dialogue elements. Fallout's companions and NPCs often have distinct voice acting and speech patterns that help make them memorable. Characters like Three Dog, Mr., New Vegas, and various companions become recognizable partly because of their voices. Fallout uses voice acting to add personality to the wasteland, making settlements feel populated and giving factions a stronger presence. The Fallout series includes recurring visual motifs that appear across multiple games. One of the most recognizable is the Vault Boy art style used in perk icons and Vault Tech materials. Another is the design of Nuka-Cola bottles and vending machines. Power armor silhouettes are another recurring visual element. These motifs help connect different games, even when they take place in different regions and time periods. Fallout's pre-war propaganda posters are often designed with bright colors, clean lines, and optimistic messaging. They advertise nuclear power, military service, and corporate products. Seeing these posters in ruined buildings creates a contrast that reinforces Fallout's themes. The posters often look cheerful and confident, but the player knows the world they advertised no longer exists. Fallout's architecture is heavily influenced by mid-century American design. Suburban neighborhoods in Fallout 4's prologue show pastel houses, clean lawns, and curved appliances. Office buildings and factories often feature older industrial designs. The combination of these designs with futuristic technology creates Fallout's retro-futuristic identity. Even the shapes of cars and robots reflect this style, with rounded forms and simplified lines. Fallout's creatures also contribute to the series' visual identity. Mirrorlurks have a crustacean-inspired design, often resembling mutated crabs. Rad scorpions are oversized scorpions with armored bodies. Yao Guai are mutated bears with aggressive posture. Deathclaws have a reptilian, muscular design that makes them immediately threatening. Each creature type is designed to feel like a natural evolution of something familiar, twisted by radiation and experimentation. Fallout's combat visuals often emphasize impact and damage. VATS, slow motion attacks, highlight critical hits and limb damage. Explosions, especially from weapons like the Fat Man, create dramatic visual moments. Energy weapons produce distinctive effects, such as laser beams and plasma bursts. These visual effects reinforce Fallout's mix of old-world firearms and advanced technology. The Fallout series also includes a strong tradition of collectible items and side activities. Players can collect bobbleheads in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, which provide permanent stat boosts. Fallout 4 includes magazines that grant perks or bonuses. Fallout New Vegas includes collectible snow globes and other items. These collectibles encourage exploration and reward players for searching carefully through ruins and hidden corners. Bobbleheads are especially associated with Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. They are small, Vault Boy themed figures that can increase special stats or skills. In Fallout 4, bobbleheads can increase stats beyond their normal maximums. This makes them valuable rewards and gives players a reason to explore optional locations. Magazines in Fallout 4 provide perk bonuses and are often placed in thematic locations. For example, a magazine about survival might be found in a wilderness cabin, while a magazine about combat might be found in a military facility. This placement reinforces environmental storytelling by matching rewards to locations. Across the Fallout franchise, atmosphere is built from many small design choices working together. Music, radio, ambient sound, lighting, color, interface style, and environmental detail all contribute to the feeling that Fallout is its own world. Even when the player is simply walking across an empty landscape, these elements keep the experience grounded in a consistent tone. Fallout's ability to make exploration feel calm, tense, or haunting depending on context is part of why it remains so memorable and why its wastelands can feel strangely peaceful even in the shadow of catastrophe. Fallout's storytelling often relies on the idea that history is never truly gone, even when the world has ended. In the wasteland, the past remains everywhere, not only in broken buildings and rusted machines, but in habits, beliefs, and repeating patterns. People form governments, start wars, create propaganda, build myths, and cling to symbols. Fallout repeatedly shows that the old world didn't vanish completely. It fractured, scattered, and reappeared in new shapes, carried forward by survivors who inherited ruins and tried to turn them into something livable. One of the most important ideas in Fallout is that the wasteland has layers. There is the pre-war layer, where the world was full of technology, corporate power, and military tension. There is the immediate post-war layer, where survivors scrambled for shelter, food, and clean water. And then there is the later wasteland layer, where new cultures and nations form out of what remains. Different Fallout games focus on different points in this layered history, which is why each one can feel like its own chapter, even though they share the same universe. The West Coast Fallout timeline is strongly shaped by the events of Fallout and Fallout 2. The Vault Dweller's journey in Fallout 1 helps stop the Master and the Unity, preventing the forced mutation of humanity into a single super mutant society. This event matters because it changes the West Coast's future, allowing human settlements to continue developing naturally. Fallout 2 then expands this world into a place where governments and economies are growing again, with the NCR becoming a major power and the Enclave becoming a major threat. The Enclave's role in Fallout is tied to the idea of the old world trying to reclaim control. The Enclave sees itself as the legitimate continuation of the United States government. In Fallout 2, the Enclave's plans involve wiping out wasteland populations they consider contaminated. This reflects one of Fallout's recurring themes: the danger of purity ideology. The Enclave represents a belief that only certain people deserve to inherit the world, and that belief becomes one of the most extreme threats in the series. The Brotherhood of Steel represents a different kind of old world inheritance. Rather than claiming political legitimacy, the Brotherhood claims technological authority. They believe advanced technology should be controlled and preserved because the world ended partly due to technological misuse. The Brotherhood's presence across multiple games shows how this philosophy can lead to different outcomes. In some regions, the Brotherhood becomes protective and cooperative. In others, it becomes secretive, rigid, and hostile toward outsiders. Fallout 3's setting, the Capital Wasteland, introduces a different tone because it shows a region that feels far less rebuilt than the West Coast. The ruins of Washington, D.C., are harsh, dangerous, and filled with threats. The story focuses heavily on Project Purity, which is a water purification initiative designed to provide clean water to the region. This is one of Fallout's most practical and realistic motivations for conflict, because access to clean water is one of the most valuable survival resources in a post-apocalyptic world. Project Purity also shows how Fallout uses large-scale infrastructure as a symbol of hope. The Jefferson Memorial becomes more than a landmark. It becomes a place where the future of the Capital Wasteland can change. The conflict between the Brotherhood and the Enclave in Fallout 3 centers on whether clean water will be shared or controlled. This reflects Fallout's recurring question about power. When a resource can save people, who gets to decide how it is used? Fallout. New Vegas presents the wasteland as a place where rebuilding has gone far enough that politics becomes the main threat. The Mojave is not simply about survival against monsters. It is about competing visions for civilization. The NCR represents democratic expansion, with laws and taxes and bureaucracy. Caesar's Legion represents authoritarian conquest and forced unity. Mr. Expoof House represents technocratic control, where one powerful mind directs society through machines. The independent option represents the idea that the Mojave should not belong to any empire at all. The Strip in New Vegas is one of Fallout's clearest examples of the old world being preserved in fragments. Casinos still operate. Neon lights still glow. People still gamble, drink, and chase entertainment. But outside the Strip walls, Freeside shows poverty and struggle. This contrast reinforces Fallout's theme that rebuilding often creates inequality, where protection and wealth cluster in certain places while hardship spreads elsewhere. Fallout 4 shifts the focus toward rebuilding through communities and settlements. The Commonwealth is filled with scattered towns, raider groups, and faction conflict, but Fallout 4's settlement system emphasizes the idea that the player can create stability directly. This is one of Fallout 4's most distinctive features, because it turns rebuilding into a physical activity rather than just a story concept. Players can place structures, create farms, build defenses, and connect settlements into networks. Fallout 4's main conflict also revolves around the Institute and synths. The Institute represents advanced scientific power, and synths represent the question of what counts as human. Fallout 4 explores paranoia through the fear that synths can infiltrate communities. This paranoia changes how people interact, making trust difficult. Fallout 4 uses this theme to explore how fear can destroy societies, even when the greatest dangers are not physical monsters, but uncertainty and suspicion. The Railroad's role in Fallout 4 highlights another Fallout theme: freedom and personhood. The Railroad treats synths as people who deserve the right to live freely. This creates conflict with groups like the Brotherhood of Steel, which views synths as an existential threat. Fallout 4's factions reflect different responses to advanced technology: protect it, destroy it, control it, or free it. This variety of perspectives keeps Fallout's moral questions complex rather than simple. Fallout 76, set earlier in the timeline than most other games, focuses on Appalachia and the idea of reclamation. Vault 76's mission was to send residents out to rebuild. Fallout 76's early story emphasizes how difficult that mission is when the world outside is unstable and filled with threats like the Scorched Plague. Fallout 76's setting shows a wasteland that still feels close to the Great War, where nature is reclaiming cities and forests, feel alive but dangerous. The Scorched Plague is one of Fallout's more unusual threats because it behaves like an infection that spreads and transforms living beings into hostile scorched. Scorch beasts are tied to this threat and represent a large-scale danger. Fallout 76's story includes the remnants of groups that tried to fight back, such as the Responders and other regional factions. This creates a tone where the player is uncovering what happened rather than stepping into an established society. Fallout's timeline is also supported by recurring cultural artifacts such as Vault Boy imagery, Nuka-Cola branding, and radio music. These artifacts help connect games across time and region. Even when the story shifts from the West Coast to the East Coast, the presence of familiar symbols makes the universe feel consistent. Fallout's use of recurring brands and designs helps create the impression that pre-war America was culturally unified through consumerism and propaganda. Fallout's humor is often built into its world design. The series uses exaggerated advertisements, corporate slogans, and cheerful mascots to critique pre-war culture. The wasteland is full of reminders that the old world was obsessed with progress and comfort while ignoring its own instability. Fallout often suggests that the apocalypse was not just a random disaster, but the inevitable result of systems built on greed, militarism, and denial. Fallout's creatures and mutants reflect both radiation and experimentation. Super mutants are tied to FEV, showing how scientific experimentation can create new species. Ghouls represent radiation's effect on humans, showing both survival and decay. Deathclaws represent engineered predators, showing how military research can produce long-lasting threats. These creatures are not random monsters. They are echoes of the old world's choices, walking through the wasteland long after their creators are gone. Fallout's approach to morality often avoids simple good and evil. Many factions have understandable motivations, even when their actions are harmful. The NCR wants stability, but can be corrupt and overextended. The Legion enforces order, but relies on brutality. The Brotherhood preserves technology, but can be authoritarian. The Institute advances science, but disregards surface suffering. Fallout's protagonists often become the deciding factor in these conflicts, and the outcomes depend on what the player values most. Fallout's long-term popularity is partly due to how it balances large-scale history with small personal stories. The main quests involve factions and major resources, but the world is filled with tiny narratives: a family's last note, a lonely robot still waiting for orders, a ruined classroom frozen in time. These details make the wasteland feel emotional without needing constant dramatic scenes. Fallout's world can feel quiet and reflective because so much of its storytelling is discovered rather than told. Even though Fallout is set in a world defined by destruction, it often returns to the same quiet idea. People keep trying, they keep building towns, they keep forming communities, they keep telling stories and listening to music, they keep trading, arguing, laughing, and surviving. Fallout's universe is harsh, but it is never completely empty because human persistence continues long after the bombs fall. In the end, Fallout's timeline is less about the moment the world ended and more about what happens after. The Great War is the beginning of the wasteland, but the real story is everything that comes next. The choices people make in ruins, the factions they build, the myths they create, and the small moments of hope they protect. Fallout continues to return to this idea across every game, reminding players that even when the world is broken, history does not stop. It simply changes shape and carries on.